This is a great one. This is a special one. I got my guy, Danny Lynch, on the Productive Conversations podcast. Guy I've known for a long time. Honestly, like, no bullshit. One of my favorite people in the world. I'm so glad, even though we interned at Sirius XM 5 years ago,
Hmm.
he's kept in touch ever since. And, man, I love this dude. He's the man, and I'm so glad to have him on the podcast today. How you doing, Danny?
I love you too, Maddie. I'm a weird guy. Like, I really haven't connected with a lot of people, like from work and shit like that. Even people who I currently work with, and like me and you just kept it real since, damn, we were in like the back of Sirius XM,
Oh, my
just like
God.
grinding. Like, yo, what's up, man? Like, oh, we made it here again. Like,
Yeah, dude.
and we were just young and just like grinding at that time. And it's like, you forget it's a really important part of your life, right? When
Easily.
you're just like running through that shit and be like, damn, this is what's good. And then and then this turns out to this. And now we're talking on your podcast, man. I'm happy to be here, man. Happy to see you. You've been
Definitely.
grinding. I love the back wall too. Like
Oh my
everything
God.
on it. Yeah, you've been putting it up, man. So I see you grinding, bro, and I'm
I'm
happy to
trying to
be
make
here.
this as authentic as cool as possible.
Uh-huh.
For what I have, I just put on my podcast. Of course, can't forget Howard
Obviously,
there.
the
Hmm.
king, of course. Is that Wendy up there too? No,
We
wait,
we
who's
got.
next to Rogan?
So I
Who's
got
next?
Joey
Oh, I'm
Diaz,
sorry.
bro.
I'm sorry. It's on Zoom, it looks like Wendy.
Oh man, I need to have Wendy up on here.
But
Jesus and
Joey's the man.
Miro,
Joey's the man. Yeah, yeah. We got
Mark
some New York
Maron here,
legends, dog.
Conan, Mike and the Mad Dog, Joe and Evan's funny. They're probably I don't know if you heard with WFAN, they're gonna announce a new show tomorrow. I think Joe
Yeah.
Beningo's gone and Craig Carden's in.
Yeah. I mean, did you see the documentary on Carton?
I did, man. I thought it was really good, actually. Really
Man,
sympathetic.
it really captured like radio is such a hard thing to capture on video.
Hmm.
Obviously, I mean, people have done it well. Obviously, the podcasting and all that type of stuff is translated well to live streaming and stuff like that, but like you can never capture of like actually what's going on behind the scenes
Hmm.
on camera really well. It's a weird industry. It's an industry that you have to like literally experience to like understand like what's actually happening while people are talking on live national radio, and like the whole
Absolutely.
jargon and the whole culture of it. And that documentary did a really good job of just being like, what people hear and what people see are like two completely different things. I loved it, especially being in sports radio. I mean, damn, dude, like it just captured just like the awkwardness, the intensity, the fun, the stressfulness of just being on radio, especially in New York. So
Right.
yeah, man. And it was just really awesome. And I've worked with a couple of those guys, Al Dukes. And like
Al
Al, it was
Dukes,
so authentic. It was just so authentic. So yeah, I
Eddie
recommend anyone
Scaceri.
Eddie. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I recommend anyone in media just to watch that, especially if you live in the New York area. Like it's a legendary story of just how that guy got through like 10, 15 years of his life.
Yeah, and it showed too that not everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
People do make mistakes. I think this is that was a great documentary to show the importance of the choices you make, how they really do
Hmm.
affect long term.
Just
And
greed.
and
Love greed.
if you get the chance to really redeem yourself, hold on tightly. And it
Hmm.
seems that with Craig getting a second chance with that, and I support him. I liked Craig. I think we definitely talked about it when we heard about him getting arrested at first and the bombshell that went.
Yeah, I mean, Boomer's a good guy. I spent a little bit of time there at WFAN too. So, I was there for like, I don't know, 8 months. And, it was after all that shit went down.
Oh man.
Um, so, the vibes of that place were like, whoa, how are we? And they did survive. They always somehow do. They always, so they have their loyal listeners. And, obviously they're in New York, so they're going to have a market no matter what. But this is going to be good for them. I mean,
Yeah.
they were never the same. I shouldn't say they, necessarily failed, but they were never the same. And this guy's going to bring back another spark. I mean, people are going to turn on the radios, and that's what the guy does. He
And
has that ability. There's only a couple people who have that, and he's one of them.
and WFA needs that. They've had quite a few years. First, you have Mike Fred says to leave, and
Yeah.
then the failure CMB that didn't work out. He comes back, and the whole app thing that
Yeah.
mixed reviews on how that all fell down. Then he leaves afternoon drive. Joe and Evan step in, and I like Joe and Evan a lot,
Yeah.
but I understand they really don't have that really spark. And Michael K's and ESPN took over, and now with it seems that the rumors are true that it will be Evan and Craig Carton, and I think there is a good mix because Evan knows everything about sports, every little detail. He has a good pop culture mind too, and Craig also his with his jargon coming back, and he clearly knows how to entertain. And I think it'll be a good thing that they need. And
Yeah. Do you
they
think
got
this
my
could be?
support.
Do you think it's gonna be like a weird struggle? I mean, obviously Craig's gonna be the first chair,
Mhm.
but like, you know, it's not like having Boomer, who's just like a second voice who like will chime in. You know, I think it's gonna be more of a challenge dynamic, which is gonna be interesting to see how that's gonna play out in audio form. You know, TV aspect, I think that will survive. I mean, no matter what, you have those two guys on, they're gonna be entertaining. But like how it's actually gonna sound to, you know, closed eyes, open ears, it's gonna be interesting. So, hey.
Mhm.
Again, they're the Kings. They're an interesting place for sure.
And as you mentioned, they seem to really have not fallen completely on the wayside. And whether that is from the loyal listeners and then just also being in one of the biggest markets. And like it is interesting to see that because Evan and Craig are so different. It's
Mhm.
literally hot and cold coming together.
Yeah,
And well, I mean, they said that about Mike and the Mad Dog. How is that going to work? And you know, plenty of our
yeah,
radio guys we looked up to, men and women. It's always been questionable and interesting. Even like, like the chicks in the office at Barstool, they didn't think that was going to last. And look what they were able to pull off. I know it's kind of been rocky a little bit with the Suit Man and stuff, but
yeah,
it shows that sometimes maybe you really need to weigh out their things to come together. Opposites attract for a reason, right?
yeah. No, I think it's a classic, odd couple,
Hmm.
theme that has always been in media since like the '60s and '70s. Literally with the show The Odd Couple. So, that's always going to last. That's just a trend that people like hearing polar opposites talking to each other and kind of basing one side's opinion to the exact opposite side opinion, and then having that clash, because no matter what, I mean, entertainment has just become like another just form of just people who want to see conflict in any single form, and be a voyeur to it, and if you have that magic sauce and that formula and that sexy appeal,
Hmm.
it's as easy as that. But
They will come.
it has to come. It doesn't just come overnight. I think a lot of people, when they see or listen to hear podcasts or live streams or anything like that, everyone's like, oh, I could do that. No, but there's a lot of things around it that got people to that point, that
Yeah.
got people those hours, that got people to do things that you would never want to do.
Hmm.
But that's just the part of the game, and if you're not willing to do that, then it's not for you. So it's not as easy
Easily.
as it looks, for sure. Um, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes, and the way that people study and the way that people prepare that, and you have to do in order for it to sound good, because if it doesn't,
No one's
it's so
going.
it's so noticeable. It's so noticeable, and it's so heartbreaking when you're like, damn, this is where I'm at. So yeah.
Even when you just hear having a boring conversation with someone, that's sticks out like a sore thumb, especially when it comes to bad radio and not as good podcasts. You really do need to have that niche, be comfortable with it. Don't be afraid, be your biggest fan. And yeah, doing the first few podcasts, there were some growing pains, and I still have lots and lots to learn. The littlest things, trying to operate a soundboard at the same time while doing this. Editing audio takes a longer than expected.
Yeah,
The only benefit
it's really
edit,
tedious.
yeah,
It's really tedious.
the only benefit of editing audio is it exports faster, but that's really
Yeah,
it.
pretty much. Yeah, and like, as I was saying, it's tedious. You're going back and forth and hearing, like, literally, let's just pretend like you had to edit that last, like, what, 10 seconds of audio,
Mhm.
like going back and forth, back, back, wait, wait, I want to slice it here. Like that shit gets that, like, if you don't have headphones on and other people are hearing you do work, like that's the one thing I hated okay, there's a couple benefits of like working from home and shit like that, but like the one thing is like you can't really tell people like, could you put headphones in, like, because some people don't want it, you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
working environment, so you gotta like, but like, you know, the most annoying thing I ever is like when people are editing out loud and you're like, because it's the, and you're, I don't need to hear that shit right now, you know? And then like, so it's really crazy. And but it's, you know, the thing about audio editing is once you understand your program and once you get it down, and you could, you know, it's just like anything, right? Like learning how to do any type of application on a
Yeah.
computer, it just takes 2 seconds, and it becomes easier. But yeah, at first it's not, it's hard to understand. It's hard to understand what it's going to sound like on other speakers.
Yep.
So that's what you always have to think into. But yeah, I mean, we still edit every single day. That's probably like the most grunt work that we have that I still do since I was an intern on day one till right now.
Gotta get those KBS numbers to a certain level so it has
Uh-huh.
that. You gotta
Hey,
get your
bring that to GB to -3.
easily, and then just also editing ums and then breaths and then the
Yeah,
littlest things you didn't even notice. And it's really does sound gross after giving every little thing, but
yeah. I man, when we were interning together, I would do a couple days in the newsroom, and that, I mean, that is when you want to talk about grunt work, about being in media, it's all about the newsroom cut guys. Like those guys are like the unsung heroes of just like news TV
oh yeah.
or radio. These guys literally sit in a box with like 45 TVs around them, and they're just paying attention. They're not having any conversations, and they're just paying attention to this. Okay, grab that one on like TV A1, and all of a sudden you just record it, and then you're just sitting there editing for 8 hours. This is what these guys do. Like, and it's so valuable because if you don't have it, like, you can't put on a show. You need to be up fast, everything. And like the way our system works, it's incredible. It's just the worst job ever. Like, you're sitting there, bro, all day long. You have no sunlight. No one respects you. No one knows who you are. You're just a quiet guy there, and you're making it shit happen. And you know, that's a lot of things I think people need to like just realize being in media. Like, you have to start those positions. Like, that's really the only way. It's so cliche. It's so whatever. Start from the bottom, but like that's really how it works. You know, like there's very few and far people who jump into media and are on talent. Like it's almost impossible. Everyone's gotten their weird start somewhere, but like that's how I got my shit, was just being a grunt man, like just like sitting there for 8 hours and just labeling shit. And
Earning your
yeah,
keep,
man,
doing
earning your keep, man.
tedious runs. You really have respect to gain, because one of the unique things about our industry when it comes to, you know, education for the training, really anybody, I'm not saying this industry is not for anybody, but it's something that you could really pick up somewhat easily. You know, you don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be like a doctor, go to school for 7 extra years or
Yeah,
stuff like that. You really just have to have a drive and be okay with rejection. You have to be okay with doing the dumbest, tedious things and not take it personally, because there's an
yeah,
insanely great payoff, because there's so much competition with it. And because there's so much competition, you have to prove to those superiors that I am going to be ready to uphold myself in this highly intense, very fast environment. And as long as you're not in fear, as long as you know what's coming up, and also have a grasp of what time is, because you could be working, you know, god awful shifts. You could be working 12, 18-hour days. But if you can really keep up with every little thing that's thrown at you, you can make it. So yeah, and
100%.
it may be easy to get in, but it's hard to stay in. I'll say that.
No, I think there's a lot of truth behind all of that stuff. And you know, another thing too is it doesn't even matter if you're in media or if you're an accountant or if you're working at a grocery store, right? Like, a lot of things I think that people don't realize, and especially our generation, we kind of got a little screwed over like this, but like a lot of us have gotten like a lot of second chances, right?
Yes.
In school, taking a test over, messing up, whatever, you name
Retaking
it. A lot
test
of people have
days.
gone second chance, right? Like shit like that. Like we're like, damn. And you kind of become accustomed to that. And once you get into the real world of work, and you have responsibilities, and there's a 45-year-old and 50-year-old man whose paycheck depends on you to get something right, and you mess up, there really sometimes are no second chances, and that can be really eye-opening to people. I've
Very
seen it
cutthroat.
happen. It's very cutthroat, and I think growing up we were a little bit patty caked, and once that first happens to you, you're like, God damn, whoa. So you like you said, rejection is a big part of just being in media. Like either just rejection of like the show that you produced that day, and you're gonna get a guy on Twitter who's like, that was a horrible take, or that was one of the most boring. Like that happens a lot. It happens to the best, and you just have to kind of ignore it and just go to the next day, and take it with a grain of salt. But that's another part of the job too, is having the public judge you, and being available on Twitter, and all that type of stuff, especially with sports fans. Like you say one
Absolutely.
thing about their team, it's really personal to them. And I'm like, my man, I'm in Los Angeles. I could care less about what's going on in Springwater, Oklahoma. Talking about, like, if I said the Cowboys are going to lose this weekend, like,
It's not
so that's
funny.
another part of the job. No, it's not, man. Like,
It's like
it's
those people
so,
getting pissed. That's not funny. You're wrong. I hate you. And then when you see people who, like, I heard on this podcast once, like with just the ridiculous internet comments. If Mother Teresa had an Instagram, right, and she's posting, like the fourth comment would be, "You're a whore," and like, bruh, these people really
yeah,
don't have a life. And they're not going away. You can't say your comments hurt me. You can say, oh well, you have like Barry, what's his name, Barry McAllister, say, well, I keep upsetting
yeah,
all these people, I got to stop. No, they're going to keep at it. So that's why I think the best
yeah,
thing I really learned in 2020 especially is how important it is to be your biggest fan. And well, as long as you have that and know you are good enough and I can do that, and I will put up with all the abuse I'm going to get, then maybe it is for you. And as long as you remember that, remember those on those really shitty days, it's
yeah,
all going to pan out. And especially when opportunities come, because it is so hard to find them, but know that you're good enough to qualify for them. And
yeah,
that
for
ice
sure.
will
I mean,
eventually break.
no, definitely. I mean, I work with some pretty big guys who have, 100,000 followers, and they're former athletes who were the kings and of their schools and stuff like that. And you work with them in media, right? And then like sometimes they just get ripped. And it's funny to see, not funny, but it's interesting to see like these guys who have had it for forever, right? And no matter where they walk, they're noticeable. And you have some guy on there who's maybe living in his mother's basement, like just doing whatever, upset because it's COVID, just ripping on them. And it's just like funny to be like, sitting there and be like, what is this guy, what, like, how could he think that? And you're like, damn, man, like dose of reality, like, but it's still cool to see all that type of stuff just even happen. But yeah, you gotta have a strong mind if you want to be a media, no matter what. And to all the young kids who are coming out for mass communication majors and all that type of stuff, like it's all about just like getting internships and being like on top of that type of stuff, and creating relationships. Like that's really what it is, and becoming a live LinkedIn. Like I always think like people rely on LinkedIn a lot, and it is a great tool, don't get me wrong, but like it could get you so far if like your personality is not what it basically says on LinkedIn. And that's one thing I think kids need to start realizing is it's like, realistically, like your profile or whatever is not going to get you a job. Like you
No.
showing up to the interview and like talking and having all those things ready, and just being a normal human being is just the most important thing to go forward with.
And that's why you don't think of yourself when you're a candidate as a number. Think of yourself as the individual that will slide in. You're going to get, if I'm interviewing, you're getting Matt Brown. And, one question when they ask in, like in common answer, tell me a little about yourself. And a lot of people will, they'll say they might review their resume they already have. I got called out on that once in the middle of an interview. and that, that was awkward at the set time. But ever since I got that, it's like, you just told me your resume. What about you? And like the way I would answer that, I'm a focused, goal-oriented human being who has a great opportunity in front of him and knows what he wants with this opportunity, and he's ready to put his best foot forward, or something like that. And definitely not try to make it stage or anything, but they want to know who are you. And like, again, most of the times just say, hey, I'm, talk about yourself, I'm Matt Brown, and this, that, and the other. And one thing I learned when it comes to all the candidates, that a lot of the time it is judgment decisions. Would you have similar resumes and stuff like that? And you really just have to hit them on a level, and it may work, it may not work, but just know that you're good enough to fit in. And
No, for
someone will
sure.
recognize
Yeah,
that.
if you're supposed to be there, you're supposed to be there, right? So like the
Easily.
interview process should be easy. If you ever go home from an interview and you're like, damn, I was challenged, like there most likely is not. Like if you go home from an interview and it was like, that was easier than I thought it would be, then you have a better chance.
Easily.
So you have to have that personality. And I always say this too, a lot of like communication majors like that I know, who I went to school with, a lot of people who are still looking for their first job in communications were people who didn't speak in class. It's communications, like that's literally the name of major. So what do you have to do? Communicate. Like you have to open your mouth. Like you have to be that annoying person sometimes. You have to, because that's what the older generation wants, right? Who are currently the bosses and things like that. I think over time, eventually, especially with COVID, we've seen that other forms of communication are maybe even better, without having interpersonal stuff and everything online to that. But for the next, I don't know, 5 years, that's not going to be the way it is. So it's all about just adjusting and having that positive mindset of just like, hey, it might not be now, but it might be later. And
Absolutely.
what are the goals that I'm going to make to get it there, and be okay with being, just knowing that media is not easy. It's not.
No, it isn't.
That's just the biggest thing to know. And like it's not easy for the best people. The people at the top complain about the industry. Everyone is. It's not for everyone. It's a great industry to be a part of once you're in it, but it ain't for everyone. It ain't for everyone.
And how people also get ready with those things as well. And I can't agree more with you, man. And you just have to know, like I said, you just have to get ready for the big storm that's coming. And there is a huge payoff when it works out. And it's worth going through all these various opportunities. And it is okay to, when it comes to like failure per se, or if an opportunity doesn't work out, you didn't necessarily lose, you failed out. It just went in a different direction. You could really grow stronger for that. Like I said, that interview where the guy called me out right away, and now I'm more prepared and not nervous at all when that question is asked. And they just really want someone human at the day. Don't want to be very showy. They just want you, and they'll trust, and everything really does happen for a reason, and fits like a glove when it's meant to be. And yeah, and even in the times in between your opportunities, grow yourself in other ways. Like, again, that's why I made this podcast for that very reason, to keep communicating with people, to keep editing with the Adobe, both Audition and Premiere, writing and staying on social media, all those little aspects. And then it will be as easy as telling your interviewer your name or wherever you wind up. Just always be prepared. Just always be prepared.
Hell yeah, Maddie. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, another aspect too is just like if you want to be in media as well, is just like it is important to be in major markets. You could do. Listen, I don't know too many people who have gone this road, and there are, but if you need to start at the local side of it and work your way up, but another side is if you can be close to a major market. That's just the best way, and that's where they have most opportunities. Obviously you being close to Boston and New York is massive for you and most people in our general area. But
Definitely.
a lot of kids who I'm like, God damn, and if you're in the middle of Texas or Oklahoma, or I'm
You're
like,
West Virginia or
you know,
something.
you gotta just if you really want to go down that path, you got to go to a major market. So be lucky if you're from this area, right? You know, um, take well advantage of that, because so many people wish they could just be simply born where we were, right? And have the
Yeah.
opportunity to get trained into New York City, you know, not have to drive 5 hours or whatever like that. So yeah, take advantage of just being in a major market if you are in one and you want to be in media.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You know, I really think more people are decent than people give credit to. And they will people are genuine to help them out because they know exactly what it's like to be in your position. We do need it is about who you know, not what you know. And someone will be there for you, your special angel and or your guardian angel or your mentor, and just the importance of staying in touch. You know, don't go too crazy on them, but you know, keep your references, emailing them once a month, telling them I'm doing this, that, and the other, and they'll remember you as long as you make a genuine impact and just be, most of all, just be a good person to them beyond your what's on your resume and your skills. It's just we can't go anywhere without being a good person with it. And we might not always get what we want, but as long as we're kind and work hard, good things will happen.
No, for sure, Matty boy. For sure, Matty boy. What's good in Connecticut? How's everything else been, man?
Yo, Connecticut, you know, we're really hitting that fall season.
Oh, hell yeah.
Uh have
Sweater weather's coming through.
yep. We have the leaves, almost all of them have fallen. I raked leaves this past weekend.
Word up.
I have, you know, still a little bit here and there coming in and out of the city still to check in and waiting for opportunities, but you know, it's a ghost town in midtown,
Yeah,
pretty much, and it's really only residential sites that have places, and you just got to be careful because some are hit more than others. But besides
for
that,
sure.
people, we're going to our pumpkin patches, we're drinking our Sam Adams Fall, Angry Orchards, really
Yeah,
enjoying it. And I don't take it granted for, oh, I don't take the fall for granted, especially here. It's just, you know,
no,
how
definitely.
sports just suck. Both football teams are disgraced. I definitely want to get into that a little later. But
Hmm.
besides getting through that, it has been a nice and relaxing time even in the COVID world. How about Los Angeles? What's going on over there? You might be a World Series to celebrate in a few hours.
Yeah, what's the score right now? I was trying to see. Is it? I know they were down 1-0 the last time I
Yeah.
checked. But yeah, I mean, it would be pretty sick if both teams won. I mean, obviously with
Yeah.
COVID, they're not having parades or anything like that. And you know, you can't really go to bars. I mean, there
Hmm.
are open up bars and stuff like that to watch the games, and they've been pretty live. But it's obviously just not the same as if it would be normal. And I'm like, damn, like I would have had that like maybe
Yeah,
too.
with the
Like,
Lakers and the
um,
Dodgers winning weeks apart from each other,
it
what can
would have
be better
been
than that?
crazy. I know. But yeah, everything's been good here, man. I mean, it was a hot summer, and like now it's finally starting to cool down. You know, wake up, it's probably like 55, and then it will heat
It's
up to
not too
like
bad.
70. But yeah, oh no, but it's like the biggest
Mhm.
thing is the difference is like everyone's like, okay, like if I lived in California, I would never get cold. Okay, it gets cold here. I promise
Yeah.
you, I'm the most northeast person ever. Through and through, but it literally does get cold here because it's drier air, right? So
Yep.
and the temperatures drop like 40 degrees out of nowhere. And you just have to be prepared for it, and like you have to have like a pretty much consistent like clothing on all day long because it will just drop and go up and down, and you can get stuck in being too hot or too cold. But it's been cold. That's the one thing I miss about home so much, right? This
Mhm.
time of the year, New York City, I mean, is like so beautiful. And it
Oh,
pretty
it's
much, I mean,
incredible.
every day here is the same. Every once in a while, we'll get a few cloudy days, but no rain, no nothing. Like it will be sunny at one point throughout the day. So it kind of gets a little Groundhog Day ish, right? Or you're like, damn, I just want a little like different consistency in weather. Um, but guess what? I'm not gonna be saying this or complaining about this in like 2 months when it starts snowing and you guys are up
Oh
and I'm
man,
like,
they're
I'm good,
saying
man.
we're in for a treat. A lot of snow's coming apparently.
Oh,
Whoever you believe
really?
with
Yeah,
that.
I feel like they say that every year. I feel like they say
Exactly.
that every
So
year. You know what I mean? It's been pretty mild for the last couple
right.
winters. So
It's been a little warmer for late October. You blame, if you want to blame whatever, whether
Yeah,
it's the climate change or whatever things changing, it's a little but but we still have a lot. We've been getting a lot of rain. We've had some gloomy fall days. Sun came out today, and yeah, it's just a matter of a few days, and all the leaves are gone, and we're gonna look at some pretty naked trees for a few months and get through this winter, and hopefully we make progress. We're closer to the end of the pandemic as we get through
for
this
sure,
winter.
man.
So,
Yeah.
how's it been adjusting with that in LA in a COVID world going on?
I mean, we're still pretty shut down.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely a massive change of before March to now. It's opened up a lot of sores to the city, unfortunately. One thing when people come out here, it's pretty obvious that we have a massive homeless issue.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, it only got worse.
It's sad to hear.
It just became, it really has been. And that's like the biggest thing for me with the pandemic, obviously, not being back and having normal society, all that type of stuff. But, like New York City, man, like not as many people are out, and the only people who are really out and who are extremely obvious are just homeless people. And that's like one thing that the city has just been like, wow, like it's a bigger issue than we thought, because when you're doing everything right, normal society, everything's going on, you kind of, you can't ignore it, but you kind of just go past it a lot more easier than now. So that's one thing where that Los Angeles has been struggling with. But it's still a very positive city. It's still a very young and energetic and beautiful city. So I feel like a lot of Los Angeles and have gotten through it the best we can. I mean, we have the ability to go outside and do activities and stuff like that, and compared to a lot of other things. And that's one thing I'm just so nervous about, man. I mean, the pandemic hit in March, so the weather was getting a little bit nicer and people could go outside more.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm nervous for the cold part of this country
Yeah.
when it gets to that in November, December, February. I mean, dude, it's going to be miserable. And that the mental aspect of everything is something that I worry about. Not just the physical sickness of coronavirus, the mental aspect of people who didn't even have it. And I think that's something that we need to be talking about like ASAP. Because no matter who you are, how much money you make, how successful you are, how unsuccessful you are, whatever, this thing was hard on every single person, everyone in some weird way or aspect of it. It wasn't positive. No, if it was, and you're very lucky that you had a positive corona pandemic, right?
That's
Most people didn't. Most
words.
people didn't. And that's one thing that I'm really, really concerned about, is just the mental aspect of our country after this. From every single race, every single sex, every single age group is affected. Kids. I'm nervous about kids. Nervous about how this is going to affect the next 5 years of their lives. Is it going to not having the correct schooling for kids who had either social or learning disabilities? God, it could set them back years, in the future, right? And we just need to figure it out. From every single thing, and just vote, and hopefully November 3rd, whatever you're leaning, is going to lean to whatever side that you want. But
just remember to give your side some support.
very nervous about this. Very nervous about the mental aspect of what's going to happen after we get out of the pandemic, because I think we will get out of it. I think we will. But what's going to happen after?
And we have what's going to happen with, like you mentioned, the restaurant industry. There's gonna not be a lot of people who will have the patience to stay out in the freezing cold winter in the streets of New York or anywhere, any of our cities, New York, Philly, DC, Boston. I mean, there's some people trying to create as authentic tents as possible, make it warm, but who knows if they could put up with that.
One heater goes down, it goes from being, I don't know, comfortable 72 degrees to 59, and you got people in there, and what have you guys said? Yeah, that's really tough, and a lot of these industries have survived just simply because of the weather.
Yeah.
But that's gonna change. So you're so right about that, Matt. It's another scary thing about it for sure.
And for other people trying to, whether you're like you said, production worlds, we have the theater industry still out until May, and who knows if they're going to
Mhm.
make it there. How are you going to adjust the seating ranges with that and all that industry, both for crew and the cast? We have, we're going to see how much of adjustment of sports. Seems that none of the sports are going to start on time, at least with basketball and hockey. It's amazing the NFL trying to do their pulling off, and we're seeing some more conferences start. I mean, your Pac-12 is starting this weekend. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
We're starting. We're starting the week of November 2nd. So November 7th will be our first Saturday back.
okay,
But yeah, we were the last Power Five to start. I think for obvious good reason. I mean, if you look at where we were in the country when it comes to college football, right? Um,
it's
we
what a
couldn't do
mess.
it. We don't. A lot of people in college football just don't realize there is no college football team in New York City other than Columbia. Columbia is the
Yeah,
only football team that plays in New York City. That's a Division I team, right? In Los Angeles, we have two, and if there
USC and
was a mid,
UCLA.
yeah, and if there was a team in New York City, they'd be like, no way, how can we pull this off? If like let's just say Syracuse was located in New York City and like they had a big following, all that type of stuff, right? They'd be like, no way, but the rest of the country doesn't look at it like
Exactly, and
Los Angeles does. We couldn't do it. It would be impossible. We have kids being sick every single day from practice. It just wouldn't. So I think it's a good idea that we waited as long as we could just because of our geological location. And the Pac-12 wouldn't be able to survive without UCLA and USC. So
and
they had
you,
to do it, and they handled it the best they could.
yeah, and definitely hope they can. It's going to be all conference games, like 8 straight conference games.
Yeah.
And okay, and another thing is also college recruitment. Whether you're an athlete or whether you're trying to get through. And I have my youngest brother
Hmm.
who's having an amazing. First, he has to go from tackle 11-on-11 to 7-on-7 touch. You can only recruit so much with a completely different game. But he's still, out of 4 games, he has 14 touchdowns and over 1,400 yards for that,
Hmm.
and he's really proud with there. And he's just doing his best with as many recruiters could get out there and see him, really trusting Huddle and
Yeah. I
but
mean,
also
I think when it comes to that, a lot of coaches obviously have to adjust. I mean, they're the way they're going to evaluate juniors, or let's just say sophomore to seniors right now. Like the way you evaluate is there's no really book on how to do it.
yeah, and
So
so many
it's not
states are.
necessarily a guess, but I mean, I guess listen, man, you could see a kid's arm strength and you could see a kid's decision making from 7-on-7s. I think there should be a more advanced way of doing 7-on-7s with someone actually rushing the passer,
Yeah,
because I think that's going to make a lot of decisions for the passer in the way that you're going to be thinking completely different.
and also the rusher
So I
too.
think that, but the rusher too, yeah, of course, like that. I mean, let's just say you have a kid, you do 2-on-2 offensive line versus defensive line, and you go from there. You want to try to bring the numbers down as much as possible. But I think your brother. I mean, I watched a couple of videos of your brother. He definitely has a good arm, and he's accurate. I mean, you could totally tell that. So I think so. I mean, it's someone's gonna take a chance no matter what.
Yeah,
So. Was he a senior or a junior?
yeah, he's gonna be a senior, and I'm very excited for
He's
him.
going to be a senior, or is he
Oh,
senior now?
he's currently a senior now,
He's currently a senior now. Okay.
and one of his most underrated aspects for a high schooler is he's very calm in the pocket, even
Hmm.
pre. Even pre-COVID, when it was 11-on-11, he, as you said, keeping that accuracy and keeping his eyes open. It's just tougher because he's 6'2", and a lot of his
Okay.
receivers
Big
are
kid.
five
That's a
eight.
big kid.
Yeah,
It's a
and a lot
big
of his
kid.
receivers are 5'8". So even he's still managing to somehow fit it in those windows for them to make some yards for him. it's interesting. And at the moment, they're planning to hopefully have a short spring season, in
Yeah.
March, April, and hopefully full pads on again, and they can get and get just so many eyes with that, and I'm sure they'll adjust deadlines regarding
Is he going to
that.
a lot of like showcases and stuff like that, or
Yep.
anything on to that? Okay.
He went to he went to one in Fordham, he went to one in Springfield. So he's still holding his own, and he has a personal quarterback trainer who trains a lot of the quarterbacks all around the conference, Fairfield County, FCAC, and
Yeah, that's
they
probably big too. That's big too. Just having, someone who knows what he's talking about, giving advice to, or his opinion to these coaches, because that's a lot of things in the recruitment world too. Is it's not just, what the kid's physical ability on the field is. There's a lot of politics that go into recruiting, right? There's a
easily.
lot of opinions that go into recruiting on writers of kids and stuff like that who could make it or break it. Of an athlete. So, he probably has he has a lot of right ingredients to get recruited. I mean, we that's another aspect of the job that we deal with, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're getting right to March Madness kind of, but it's not really heating up that much. And basketball and football's over. It's just like the recruitment aspect of college sports. It's such a massive industry. When I
Yeah.
was getting recruited, I didn't even realize what was going on, because that's just the beauty of recruitment, is just you're just along for the ride, and you're just saying yes and taking visits and all that type of stuff, and it's fun. But yeah, the recruitment industry that's another side of college sports that before I got to the college side, I was like, whoa, I had no idea about this world really when it came to like D1, D2 kids.
Yeah, I also that's probably the one aspect. I mean, love all sports as same as you, and that's like the one aspect is seeing scouting for college specifically. The only one I really see is Last Chance U, and that's very
I love
nuanced.
that show.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm excited. They're doing basketball next, so
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's a great idea, honestly, because you get
yeah.
some probably really funny, good characters on that type of stuff. Like last season in Oakland, my God, I love the Oakland season. I think that was my favorite one. I mean, I've actually had Coach Brown on my show a couple times.
No way. How
Uh,
was he?
he's the man. He's the man. The nicest guy in the world. I mean, obviously, what he did, I do not support at all. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that happens with guys in media, and but he was great, fire, to have opinionated,
Just what
awesome.
you want.
Just what you want. I mean, he's a very interesting guy. He's from California, so he had a couple kids from his team from Independence College in Kansas that were playing on a few Pac-12 teams. So we had this kid last year, Kawhi Dang. His last name is Dang.
Dang, like DA, like
D.
dang.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
dang,
Dang,
like
but
Luau, like NBA player
like
Luau
Luelde.
down.
Yeah,
Okay.
Leng. He's like a 6'8" middle linebacker at Cal. This kid is a
Shit.
freak of nature, and he played for Coach Brown. And we had him on just to really talk about him. But I mean, this guy gave us so much insight to just like the world of recruiting from the junior level. It's that's a whole other world too, junior football around the country. And how all that type of stuff works. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Coach Brown, I love Jason Brown. He's a great guy to me personally. But once again, I'll just put on the record. I mean, hey, that shit was crazy what he did. I mean, there's no excuse for
Unbelievable.
that. But I think he'll get another chance. I think he's that good of a coach. I think he has a great scheme, and I think he could recruit kids really, really well. If I'm a D3 school, I would take a shot on him, to be honest with you. If I had the opportunity to hire someone, I would. I think people
Why
make
not?
mistakes,
What do
but
you
people
have to
learn from it.
lose? Rick Pitino's coming back. He's going to Iona, and we know that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
why not?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not?
I mean, just being outspoken now is obviously
A
looked down
risk.
upon, and a risk. But, at the end of the day, people do make mistakes. And if you can coach football, you can coach football. That's what it is. But again, those W's at the end of the day, no matter what. So, I
Easily.
mean, Urban Meyer's about to get hired
You
again,
think so?
like
You think
next
he's coming
year.
back?
100%. 100%. I think Texas is going to hire him.
Texas. Think he could turn it
Yeah.
around, get those like old Mac Brown days and all that?
100%. There's only, I mean, I think coming out of the Pac-12, I want USC to hire him. I mean, I think Clay Helton's a great coach at USC, and he's one of the nicest guys I've worked with. But Urban Meyer would turn the program completely around. Like
for either USC or Texas.
or Texas.
It's
You
been a long
name it.
time since they've been had a strong presence in
2005 was one of their last winning seasons. I mean,
and they played against each other in the national championship once.
They did, really. Yeah, I mean, that's
Vince Young and Matt Leinart.
It's pretty much where we saw both programs kind of just decrease.
It's interesting how that works, huh?
Yeah, it is. Two power bloods. I mean, they survived. I mean, Texas has the most money in college football. They have their own network. I mean, they have so much money, so they will survive just because they have the funding. They just need to keep their recruits. And I think it comes down to the same exact problem at both schools. They can't keep the local talent at the schools anymore. Every kid, listen, I've been to a couple of high school games in California. The speed of high school football out here is night and day compared to where we're from. And I'm sure in Texas, the power is night and day where we're from. What the problem is, those kids are going to schools all over the country other than UCLA, USC, and Texas. They want to go everywhere else. They want to go to Bama. They want to go to the SEC.
You want to go to any SEC to get some love.
Of course, because you go to the SEC and you play – exactly. You're the Big 12. If you're an offensive star, you're going to go run out routes the entire time. It's going to be the air raid. So, the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 listen. And another problem that the Pac-12 has is it's just on too late. Listen, I'm out here watching the games. They're great games. There's so much drama in them. Every single game, for the most part, is maybe one score game. Unfortunately, people are just asleep because it's a Saturday. People are drinking all day. People don't want to stay up. So what the Pac-12 needs to do, and they're starting it this year, and they're going to start games earlier. So we're going to have a 9:00 start time Pacific.
That's great. They need to show
get eyes on the East Coast.
And they have good players coming out of the Pac-12. Justin Herbert for Oregon, played in Oregon. Now he's killing it with the Chargers.
He's unbelievable.
Juju Smith, Juju USC guy, killing. We all know what he's doing with the Steelers. And, I mean, like you said, the talent's there. They come out. It's just about getting those eyes. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played for Cal, so.
And Sam Darnold, I mean, listen, you Jet fans, listen, they might not want to hear this. I know you're not, but
the Jet fans. Yes, you were saying.
Sam Darnold's not the problem. He isn't. He's an unbelievable football player. Like if you get some guys around him, he's going to change things. I saw it. So I covered him my first year where I was out here. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's the truth. He makes plays that you're like, an NFL vet wouldn't have made that decision right there. The kid is really, really good. He just needs a chance. But let's talk about the real team that matters in New York, who technically, Matt, listen, I as a Giant fan, obviously the L's are hurting. The L's are hurting.
It's been a long time, year after year, these L's. We haven't made the playoffs since 2016, and we've just seen a mess. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were saying?
All I'm saying is that we're not out of games. We're in every single game.
Especially with how bad our division is right now.
We're in every single game. It's one or two penalties that sometimes aren't our fault that, I think we technically could have like 3 wins right now if it wasn't for penalties and weird judgment calls where you're going to call a holding call a minute 35 to go. Why aren't you calling that same holding call that happened with 13 minutes to go? So it's a couple of weird things like that. Obviously the interceptions need to go down completely with Danny.
And those fumbles.
But we have leads in games. It's not like we're like the Rams game. I thought we looked terrible. That was pretty much the worst game that we've played. But they're still young. But I think I like the way we're building, and I don't think we're that far off. I truthfully believe it. And I'm a Giants homer, obviously, for many reasons. But I truthfully believe we're not that far off. I'm not that hopeless. I'm really not. This weekend, this Monday night is going to be a test. We, for some reason, have always played the Buccaneers well, no matter what. And I'm huge. I listen. I get it's a different team and it's Tommy Brady and then possibly fucking Brown will be on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'm a fan of history. I'm a fan of looking at things. I'm a fan of all that type of stuff when it comes to picking and winning games. And if you look at the Giants' history against the Tampa Bay Bucks, we do not lose to them. So have that in mind. That's all I'm saying.
Yo, don't forget we beat the Bucks in the playoffs during our Super Bowl run when we
Yep, we
beat.
did.
Dude, I
Jeff
actually,
Garcia.
yeah, I actually agree with you. You know, I had my rant on on one of my podcasts before, and and I really do believe, though I do think things need to change to get those final W's, but we really aren't. We're in these games. We do have some players prospering, whether you're James Bradbury, looks like so he's probably Gettleman's best pickup. Blake Martinez has slid in and shows that he's a legit linebacker in this league. Logan Ryan he just signed with the team right before we started at the end of training camp, and he's really been contributing as a defensive back. You know, then we have, you know, you do see things that
And I think
give you a headache.
think Jabril is great. Defensively, we just don't have a edge pass rusher. Like that's our missing X factor on that side of the ball. You know, I think Gettleman has made better decisions than bad. And the biggest example I have of that is just simply Dwayne Haskins.
Oh yeah.
If I'm Dave Gettleman, and I have Giants fans going at my neck, oh, you're doing whatever, I just say Dwayne Haskins because I think every single football fan, to a blind-eye football fan, that's why I like to call people blind-eye football fans, people who don't watch film or people don't like understand. If you say what's a Tampa 2 defense, how many linebackers are dropping, and 4-3, what does that mean? Like, yeah, exactly.
They can't get formations right. They can't. They don't know what play actions are. They don't know different
Exactly.
motions.
So a lot of those type of fans are the ones who are just like drafting teams on Madden and going from there, right? Okay, and don't really understand what a salary cap is and you know how to really put a scheme together. And I would just say Dwayne Haskins, because to the blind football fan, Dwayne Haskins was the pick, right? And I'm telling you, if they didn't draft Jones at 6, then the Redskins or any other team would take him up in 1 second. He would have been drafted first. So I'm going to start there. I'm also going to start with Saquon. He drafted Saquon.
Yes, he did.
Okay. That's a risky move. And, you know, the only thing that now we're coming back is like, all right, he drafted running back. He got injured. How is he going to return off of that? Okay, that's one thing. But after the last, how many seasons Saquon has played, he's a phenomenon. I mean, he and that's an extremely smart move. So I think you give Gettleman at least one more draft with this coaching staff, and then that's when you make a decision. And you can't judge any football team off of this coronavirus year. You can't. And the champion of this league is going to be a champion that is well-deserved, and every other team has had to struggle with it. And the Giants, I mean, another thing too is like, you know what? Titans have been doing great and all that type of stuff, but I applaud all the GMs and all the organizations who haven't had any positive tests or haven't done anything along the lines of that. And those are a lot of coaches and GMs who don't have a lot of wins. And at the end of the day, that's really what is more important, right? Where you have more control of your team, of just being like, listen, if you go out, you're going to affect all of us right now, right? Like my father works in that building. He has nothing to do with the team. You making a decision, right, could affect everyone in this building. So I applaud a lot of those players and a lot of those teams and GMs who are controlling their teams, right? That's where we need the leadership right now. That's really more important than getting a football win, right? So, and those things go back all the way back to the top, not just to the Maris and Tisches, but it goes right to Gettleman and right to Joe Judge. So I applaud a lot of those coaches from that aspect.
Really? No, you were getting insanely great points, especially when it comes to the decision making. And you know, the big things between our counterparts, the Jets, and us is that we are. I know the record doesn't look like it, but we are competitive in the games, with the exception of the Rams game that looked bad, even though we did almost somehow only lose by a possession. And then the 49ers game, that's just one of those things. We'll just let that go. But held our own against the Steelers, who might win the AFC the way they're playing. the Bears, the most unique 6-1 team, and
Yeah.
but that's that's for another day how there. But we still played well against them. We know what happened with Dallas, and I think with obviously not only the Dak injury and Andy Dalton showing his old self, but I mean the the fake field goal for a touchdown, and then it gets pulled back on a dumb holding call. Like what?
Well,
That's
yeah, I
just
mean that call almost happens on every single play, right?
yeah,
Especially
right.
with the center position. It's the center position is always technically going to be offsides because he's the first person moving,
Yeah.
and it's always technically going to be an illegal shift no matter what. So when they called that one play, I mean, that call back, I turned the TV because I was like, that's almost impossible how they're going to call that, because they're going to have to call that on every single play going
Yep.
forward if you're going to make that decision right there. And you did. The Giants would have won that game, right? Technically, right, by a touchdown, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So
If that wasn't called, we would have at least won by a touchdown.
yeah, I mean, and then you go back last week, a couple penalties off the board. You're going to call interferences at the end of the game out of nowhere for the Eagles and all that type of stuff. So yeah,
That one hurt the most, was that Eagle loss, and we all know the Evan Ingram drop that led to an interception, and then we know what
yeah,
happened.
bro.
But that game watching, just watching so many, just a little incompetent on both sides. Seeing dumb 2-yard runs, seeing balls fall right through the hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing our division is making things open. And well, now I thought that the Cowboys would honestly run away again with Dalton, but now they're bringing in the third string from James Madison. I can't think of the guy's name at the moment, but
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to say the least. So, I mean, we could always be the boys, but,
yeah. And it seems like the Mike McCarthy decision is starting to backfire more internally. So,
I mean, it's drama in Jerryland all the
literally,
time.
man.
So, yeah, dude, as a Giant fan, it could be a lot worse than it actually looks. And there's still a lot of season left. There's still a lot of football to be played, and a lot of weird
Yep.
things to happen.
I
So
have to just ask with just a couple more points with this. Andrew Thomas, so far so good. Reckon he's just a rookie, and
Mhm.
there's plenty to adjust.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about him? Do you think he should maybe go more transfer to a guard? Do you think out of those three, out of the big four that came out of the draft, he seems to he's still finding his grasp. Do you think that he could be fixed?
Yeah,
Albert Hainsworth wasn't good at start, and now he's a Hall of Famer on his way, so it can be adjusted.
for sure. I mean, I think playing tackle, uh, no matter what side of the ball you are, coming from the college side to the NFL, was one of the hardest transitions you could have in sports.
Yep.
The only other hard in football, I think, obviously the quarterback position, right? It's very hard to translate, right? A completely different game. Tackle, you're going against grown men who literally run 4.6s and could bench 390 and are just physical freaks from start to finish, right?
Yep.
And you have guys who will move you, right? Like when I came from high school to college, I couldn't believe how hard it was and just how fast it was. So I think the first year of ever judging a rookie tackle, it was almost impossible. So the big year for him will be next year, to see how much he improved in the offseason, how much bigger he got, how much faster he got. And that's when you start judging people. Another thing too that doesn't help him is not having Nate Solder in the locker room, right? You have that veteran guy who's going to show you how to do it, guy who's been around for the league for a while, who has obviously been so many Super Bowls with the Patriots, and just a great locker room leader guy that you want to have in your locker room. So I think you give him one more year to judge. From what I saw, I mean, I paid a lot of attention to him in the Washington game, and I think he did pretty well against Chase Young. There's a couple.
Yeah, that was a cool thing to watch.
Yeah, so I watched that game very, very closely. I think he's an unbelievable run blocker. I like his pad level. Pass blocking, it's just an adjustment from just going,
Yeah, that's where his
obviously.
weakness is.
And he was in the SEC. He was in, the best conference when it comes to defensive pass rushers and stuff like that. And that just says something about how much better these guys are in the
Yeah,
next
right.
level in the NFL. So you give him one more year. I mean, listen, in the game against the Eagles in the fourth quarter, I mean, when the pressure was on, he wasn't the same player that he was with confidence. So I think confidence is a big thing with him. Um, Once you get that going, it becomes a lot easier. But that takes time. So I like to judge linemen in year two, and take it from there. But for my year one grade, I'll give him a C plus B minus, and I
Hmm.
think that's pretty sufficient for anyone coming into the league at that high of a pick.
Right.
I listen personally. I would have probably taken Mekhi Becton
Oh yeah,
at
he's the
4.
only good thing about the Jets this year.
But here's the thing: is you got a big guy like that, we're injury prone,
Yep.
right? Mekhi, well, he's out for the year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Mekhi Becton. Let me see
The
that
big
real quick.
tackle. Yeah, I think he got injured. So, that was probably on his scouting report, right? When they were drafting him, like, guy, can't really like make it through all that type of stuff. If I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he got hurt.
Yeah, it says here, but he will be back in this week, Becton. So
Okay, so he got hurt last week. Okay, so
yeah,
I
so
mean,
he'll be back for this week.
he's a bully, and I think he's an NFL body, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
sometimes those guys don't last. So I would have taken him there.
Yeah, you're either Eric
But
Flowers or Ricochet Ferguson.
But here, you look at a guy like Flowers who has a completely different career now with the
Yeah,
Redskins,
yeah,
with the Dolphins
yeah,
now.
he's
With the
on the
Dolphins,
Dolphins. He stepped up and he did do a position change. So
he went to guard, and he just adjusted like that. So it does take that time and stuff like that when it comes to linemen. And he's become one of the. I mean, listen, man, and that man's made so much money in his career just always being a starter. So. Yeah, it takes time, and it takes, you develop, from when you're 20, he's probably Thomas is what, 22, 23.
Michael
When he becomes
Thomas is 20,
damn,
a
like,
young guy. So
when he develops into like a 24-year-old, like, yeah, give him that time. So linemen take time. There's so many Quentin Nelsons in the world who come in and just dominate, and they're just animals, and just all they do
yeah,
is eat, drink football. That
that's a
doesn't
rare
happen too
thing.
often.
And
No,
people think he'll go to the Hall of Fame the way he's playing, and shit, I'm with him, man.
100%.
But like you said, that's a rare
100%.
breed. That's a very rare breed that
Rare
doesn't
breed.
come in. And one of the things, Will Hernandez is one of our most underrated at
Hmm.
pass blockers playing the guard. He got his first penalty only this week. You know,
Yeah, no,
um,
he's been great for us. I mean, sometimes he makes some stupid mistakes, but guard is, yeah, for what we got in the second round with him,
yeah,
his value has been so much worth it. And listen, hopefully we get lucky and we get the safety back McKinney,
yep.
who we drafted in the second round from Bama. I mean, that guy's a difference maker on the field, in coverage and everything on sides of that. And
You can
a
always
lot
trust
of
a
this.
Bama's defensive back.
100%. And a lot of the sacks that we've been getting, right, have been coverage sacks where
Yep.
maybe the pass rush just hasn't been there, but our coverage has been decent enough with backups in sometimes. So you add McKinney in, who is obviously an unbelievable blitzer and a defensive back. Yeah, it could change a lot differently. And those are just, freak things that happen with injuries, right? And Gettleman just got unlucky with that. But listen, well, let's just say McKinney balls out this year. He's interceptions left and right, turnovers. That makes Gettleman look like a superstar, right? Like,
Right.
you're like, oh wow, there you go. So it's just, sometimes it's an injury away from from all that type of stuff from happening and everything like that.
And you trust Daniel Jones more long term? Do you even though it's been a tough season for him and we can blame you talk about the line has been hard to adjust for them, no more Saquon and
Yeah.
do you still think to give him time? May I ask, like, if we for some reason get into a if we have to
Tank for
you know
Trevor.
pay for Trevor, would you not I don't want to take for Trevor in the sense that because that just shows how much I don't want to have another high draft pick like that. But do you think if the opportunity presents itself, should we grab him, or you want to maybe get a new? It's going to be a very wide receiver heavy draft, isn't it? So
Yeah,
find
we're
his
going to
next
have
player.
a ton of wideouts coming out. I mean, you have a guy that's going to pair up with Slayton really well.
And
I
yeah,
think, listen, if we're in the top 5, right, um, of next year's draft, the one player that I want on everyone's board right now, and he's not going to play this year, so we're not going to see him, but just watch. It's boring because what I'm going to say is you're like, oh, but I'm telling you, this guy makes highlight tapes for offensive linemen
mm-hmm.
insane. This guy's named Penei Sewell. He's a tackle from Oregon.
Penei Sewell. Okay.
Penei Sewell, the most athletic tackle I've ever seen play the game of football. The nastiest tackle. He plays tackle like he's a defensive lineman. He basically he basically brought Oregon as an offensive lineman to the Rose Bowl last year,
Yeah.
simply just because he hasn't ever given up a sack in his career. He's never had a holding call in his career.
Now that's
He is
appealing.
a freak of nature. He's 6'8", and he's just a monster. He's a big old boy. I would take him in 1 second, put him on opposite side of Thomas, and that's your 2 tackles for the next 10 years. That makes or breaks a team, right? Just having good tackle play and having Daniel Jones be able to set up and throw, because Daniel Jones makes really good decisions when he has clean pockets and timing. Daniel Jones could get the ball in pretty much anywhere. He's very accurate. His problem is just decision making, and his decision making is based off of only having 3 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah,
And make
because
something out
people
of
just slide
nothing
in.
because he can't block. Okay, so you got to break down of why he's throwing those interceptions, why he's making that weird decision, why he's on the run and throwing it, and if not, it's going to be 3rd and 19, or take the chance of a 50-50 ball that's either going to fall to an interception or an incomplete pass. So no, I don't. I personally would not take Trevor Lawrence. I mean, listen, we see a lot of these guys like Joe Burrow, who has been playing well, right? But we've also seen a ton of different quarterbacks who have come out of big programs like Clemson, been the man of where they're at, have had dream offensive linemen, dream wide receivers, dream 5-star running backs that they have, right? If you have all those things at your disposal, you're going to be really good, okay? Let me put him on a team like the Giants or the Jets. Is Trevor Lawrence making those crazy plays and those crazy throws?
Definitely
I don't
not.
know. I don't think so. He's playing. Look, we also have to realize he's playing. He has played well in the playoff games, right, against the big time opponents in non-conference games. But he's playing in the ACC.
Yep.
He's playing against Georgia Tech. He's playing against a
like
very
Maryland
bad
and stuff like that.
Maryland Big Ten.
Well,
But
no, sorry, that's Big Ten. But like,
yeah, but Syracuse and listen, those games just don't vibe.
his only competition is Notre Dame, and if that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, you got Duke, BC. Those kids are not going. A lot of those kids are not going to the NFL that he's been playing against for the last 3 years. So, you got to take that with a grain of salt. You have Daniel Jones, who has proven that he has at least shine that if you have a team around him that he could be a good NFL quarterback. He got big last offseason. He's only going to get bigger in year 3. He's a smart guy.
And he has the legs too. Like we know that 80-yard run. Even though, listen, Patrick Mahomes said it would be hard for him to make that, and he did technically have a better sprint than Lamar Jackson, just 0.2 miles per hour. So, really evaluating with you, really taking a hard look. I am willing to give him one more chance, and when we have our guys back, and we have a year developed with these linemen, and again, who knows where the division's going this year or next year? Why not? So,
I mean,
we can only go up from here after these years.
Daniel Jones makes that pass to Evan Ingram. We're talking about how good he is right now, right?
Yep.
That's not Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones set that ball up and put it right in his hands, and he dropped it.
Exactly. That's all Ingram's fault.
So you got to blame it on someone. I mean, listen, You couldn't have done it any better. Double coverage, put it on the outside shoulder, drop it in there. He makes that catch. We're talking about actually how much potential Daniel Jones has, not how bad he is. That's one play right there that it's not his fault. Another amazing play that Jones had in the game the other day is he rolled out, crossed his body, and then found Shepard in the back of the end zone. Like throwing it, like I don't think they make it look so easy on TV, but trying to do that, right? Running as full speed as you can to one side of your body, everything on the right side, stopping and throwing back to the left on a bullet. Try to do that in your backyard tomorrow, guys. Go see if you can do that. Like, please try. Go do that while you have another 6'7", 250,000-pound man running at you, and you're gonna get crushed. Go do that. And that's just a lot of things I wish people just like took a second before they quickly judged and then just forget about the game that they just watched, and just took away the biggest and worst plays. So that's just the type of fan that we need to all become better fans.
That's something that I won't complain about. And we have that extra playoff team. You never know. Just remember, we've gone through shit, and we can only go up from here. But Danny, I had nothing but a great time here. We talked for almost an hour and a half, and man, I really appreciate this. I hope you want to come on again because these are fun, and I just love chopping it up with you. So.
Love chopping it up, Matty boy. It was good catching up, brother. Thanks for having me, man. I love you, dude. I'm so proud of the person you become, and our friendship is forever, man. I appreciate a guy like you, Matty Brown.
Damn, I hold those words dearly, bro, and I love you. I am proud to see what you're doing, and I'm excited to see where you go, and I can't wait to have this again. And once I get the chance with LA, you're the first person I'm hitting up. But before then, catching up.
We're waiting, baby. We're waiting for you, brother.
I'm ready. Once the opportunity comes to me. So, all right, Danny, thanks again for your time. You're the man. I'll call, and I'll talk to you soon.
Love you, brother. Good chatting with you, my man.
I love you too, Brody. I'll catch you soon.
All right, bro.
Peace.
See you, dude.